Welcome to Whole Lot of Wolves, episode 23 of season 6. I'm your host, Joshua Buckley, with co-host Danny Paletti.
Good evening.
Good. Does that ever sound weird yet? Co-host Danny Paletti?
Yeah, a little weird, but I did record on a city podcast today, and I had to call myself a co-host there, so it's sinking in.
It's sinking in. Also sinking in, Danny, Wolves are undefeated in 2026.
Who had that on their 2026 bingo card?
I know. We are like 2/3 of the way through January, and we still haven't lost. Now, we're not exactly getting enough points to be safe just yet. The catchability rankings are still probably pretty bad. However, another point gained in a 0-0 draw against Newcastle. Danny, overall performance, how'd you feel?
Solid. I only really felt nervous for the last 10 minutes or so, which feels pretty good for spending the entire game drawing the game. It's just like normally, a month or two ago, I would be nervous the entire time we were sitting there and drawing, and then I'd feel the relief once we finally conceded. Overall, I felt like it was another performance sort of to build on, where we were solid against a decent team.
So lineup came out, and João Gomez and Andre were back in the midfield together. Kind of some questions about that the last few weeks, because John Arias had been going in that role instead, and it kind of felt like maybe that's a little bit for better fit for what Edwards wants to do. How do you feel about both of them playing and starting in this match?
Yeah, I think it made a bit of sense to me, especially with the strength of Newcastle's midfield. It is funny to see the sort of battle between the current Brazil midfield versus the pretenders, the ones who want to get in. It made sense in that regard, where I just think that we were just trying to match them up in terms of physicality, and that was something we struggled with in the Everton game. So it made a bit of sense.
Well, Wolves again looked pretty good defensively. First half, they didn't allow a shot on goal, which, I mean, kind of pretty crazy considering the amount of talent they have on that squad.
Yeah, it was again, like I said, especially that first half was a really solid defensive performance. Definitely the kind of thing where I sat there at halftime. My buddy Edgar came over to watch it. We were talking about it. I said, if we looked this solid, even though we really hadn't created much by that point, or really most of the game, if we'd looked that solid for the whole season, I'm not saying we would be out of relegation trouble, but we would be much closer to Forest than we are now. Maybe we'd even be
out again. I'm going to say it. We would not be currently a bottom 3 team.
Yeah, we might be in 17th. But yeah, I mean, like that's the difference, is like we looked competent at defending a clean sheet, and that's a welcome change for this month.
Who do you think is really the key right now to the defense playing the way it has? Is it Santi? He's come in, looked really well in the middle, or is it Mosquera? He's kind of turned it into a beast the last month or so.
For players, I probably have to give it to Mosquera. I just think he's finally getting to put the minutes together all at once, back-to-back games that he really hasn't had, for Wolves at least, for years, or maybe even ever. He had that brief spell at the beginning of last season before he got injured. And it just, he hasn't been able to sort of solidify his position until now. And he's looking really, really strong to the point where I think that maybe, if he keeps doing like this for the rest of the season, we're going to struggle to keep hold of him. Like, I really like, if we do indeed get relegated, I would love to have him in the championship, but if he keeps putting in performances like that, I think we might struggle to do that. I think you also have to give some props to Rob Edwards. I mean, like, there is a certain amount of just putting things together and giving the players confidence to protect that clean sheet.
Did you see Mosquera's heat map? It was nuts. It looked like a box-to-box midfielder, and I know at one point I said on Twitter, he's out there thinking he's Drogba. Like, he was taking some people on. You would have thought he played futsal.
Yeah.
Like Kilman. What? I mean, do you think that was part of the game plan, or Mosquera was just kind of going rogue?
Yeah, I don't know. How much can you really constrain Yerson Mosquera? How much can you really tell him what to do? Or if you do tell him what to do, how much does he listen? It's hard to know. But I mean, I think that's like been an interesting conundrum, even when he wasn't as solid. Thinking about like, should Doherty come back in once he's healthy again? It's just like, do you sacrifice a player who could actually make a forward run, which like we have so little attacking threat? Do you like, even if it's a center back, like just to have anybody breaking into the box or getting us to the box, it's a hard thing to get rid of. So yeah, I have no idea how much it's planned, but I love it. I love that he just like has the desire to actually go win a game is what it feels like. Like there are times when we're like struggling to get out of our half and he just decides, like, no, screw this. We're getting into their final third, and we are going. Yes, Podfather Emeritus in the chat right now. Paula Page saying you can't constrain Mosquera from grabbing grown men's butts.
That's true.
And he gets butts off seats too.
I think the only thing missing was some step over move at some point when he's traveling down there like a gazelle. It was quite interesting. Maybe him and Arias have like some friendly bet as far as who's going to finish with the most points plus assists, and Mosquera's like, well, crap, now I gotta
oh my god,
gotta catch up.
I mean, genuinely, he's any player right now is in the running for most goals this season. Like, I just like the top scorer is like currently tied at 2 or something. Like, it's just like
Even a player not on the current rosters.
Yeah, 2 of our current center backs are in the running for top goal scorer this season. It's anyone's trophy.
One person who's not quite in the running for that, but he could be at some point, is Jose Sa. He's really been putting together some performances. Still a couple of, oh my God, what are you doing? I think we just know that's part of it with him. But he had a couple really great saves in this match.
Yeah, and that's what you have him in for. It's certainly not for the distribution, which is still difficult to say the least. Really reminding us that like I feel like Wolves have been putting off upgrading their goalkeeper situation for like 3 years now. And like the relegation might be the opportunity to do that. Unless Johnstone says he wants to be number 1 next season, which I'm not a huge fan of, but I could see them thinking that that's a good way to save money. But it's just like with them going, just find someone who, is a more all-around goalkeeper. I'd love if Jose Sa could figure out how to distribute a ball, because like he's clearly that kind of goalkeeper that can just make the big saves when you need him to. And I just don't feel that confidence with Sam Johnstone. He has many other qualities, some of which are good, but Johnstone, I just like don't trust. The same thing with Bentley. Like when Bentley would come in for cup games last year, it's just like you'd see a shot and think like Jose Sa saves that one. And it's like, I don't know. With Jose Sa, it feels mostly like either he's made a boneheaded decision or no goalkeeper is saving that.
Yeah. The one Trippier free kick, it just missed, but I think Saw still has a beat on that, and he had to come a long way to stop that. Another one that was really a standout and maybe your man of the match would be Hugo Bueno, who just looked great out there. Kind of a little Aït-Nouri-ish in the way he was pushing. He had a great shot on goal when he was playing on the right side. I mean, this is definitely a guy that needs to be a part of this team if they're going to be moving up from the championship next year, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so funny. I mean, like he's gone and played for a team that was in the Champions League, um, and we know that he has probably another level. The thing that I kept thinking about with Hugo Bueno this game was just like the how unbalanced our squad is, which we've talked about all season, and how much strain it puts on any of the players who are performing even a little bit. Like I just like you look at him like even in the last few minutes of the first half, and it's like, God, this guy's so gassed. And it's like I'm glad that his fitness seems to be better these days because now, like before, it was like he'd be able to do that for 60 minutes tops. And that's part of the reason that I think he struggled to establish himself on that side. But it's just like now he seems to be able to play 90 minutes. That's great. I would love if we had a team where he didn't have to work so damn hard because like he's working so hard just for us to create almost nothing, like I and I don't think like he's nowhere near the pinnacle of like left wing back, certainly not even in our time following Wolves, but like he's one of the few people that can create something on our team. And God, we have anybody who has some ability to create a goal scoring opportunity has to like work double time for us to score maybe zero, but certainly once.
Somebody who doesn't have ability to create goal scoring opportunity is Jackson Chichua, because he refuses to go forward. I thought it was great at one point. Zhao kicks it over to him and he kicks it back. And I thought Zhao was ready to like go over and personally strangle him. However, let's give Jackson credit. He had a great game defensively.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably a pretty low bar, but I think it's probably his best game in a Wolves shirt. I don't know. It's like, that's not maybe a great thing to say, especially like I don't really
took on somebody once.
Yeah, I don't remember a thing that he did except he like raced back a couple times to stop a counterattack. That he did that well. He's fast, and when he's using his speed to defend, it's well used. But yeah, I don't know. It was a competent display, and honestly, it definitely keeps him in the team for the next game because I think we'd love to see Rodrigo Gomez or Pedro Lima over there, but I think playing at the Etihad, playing City away is probably not the one to put your cards on the table offensively. And so if Jackson is the most solid defensive option, he probably keeps the shirt.
I mean, the way I figure it with Jackson refusing to go forward, it's like if Sydney Sweeney, only wore like really baggy shirts and everything for auditions. It just, come on, it doesn't make sense. Jackson, just go, man. You got the speed. You got the goods. Like Sydney Sweeney, you got the goods. Go for it.
I think there was one point where he like knocked it past a player and then got called for a foul trying to get past him. And it's just like, I reflexively, we threw up our arms. Edgar may have shouted something on the TV because I think the officiating was fairly poor. There was a lot of very soft things being called, and the referee was very credulous. We'll say that. But then when they showed the replay, I was like, yeah, he probably did foul him. But it's just like, dude, the whole point of knocking it past your man is that you run around them and sprint past them. Like you are faster than them. Like back yourself to beat them. You don't have to like go shoulder to shoulder with them when you still have 20 yards to catch up to the ball. He is one of the most infuriating players to watch.
I think if they're doing the FIFA ratings, if I was doing them, I'd have him like speed 98 and aggressiveness of 2.
Yeah.
Show Jackson some Adama reel, says James Hand on Facebook. Love it. Yeah. I mean,
really
look, he doesn't have
into
the strength that Adama did, but
yeah,
come on.
It really does put into perspective, the skills that Adama had. And I was, not one of his staunch defenders in terms of like his creative output. You were, but like, I think in that team, and also it shows how much we've regressed, obviously, but like in that team, he was not the one that you wanted to trust to like be the creative outlet. And so it was frustrating to see him try to cross the ball and it goes out for a goal kick. But like he was able to progress us up the pitch and like whatever it was that Vitor wanted in players, he seems to have completely forgotten the quality of can a player get us from one end of the pitch to the other?
Well, I think he was just thinking like aerial battles the whole way, just like, volleyball. Doot, doot, doot. Don't let it hit the ground. What did you ever play that as a kid? When you get a group of friends and you have like a balloon and you're trying
Yeah.
to keep it. That's Vitor ball, I think.
That's one of those things that like I inherit from my father. His habits of watching soccer is he would get so frustrated when players wouldn't just trap the ball on the ground, when they would just like not trust themselves to put the ball on the ground and just like keep heading it back to the other dude. It's just like, just trust yourself. Like, you've played your whole life with this ball at your feet. Just put it at your feet and go.
That's wild. I still want to see Lima come in. I think you do as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the very I'll put him in the category that we had Mane in like a month ago, where it's like he doesn't need to play every game, but I'd like to see him a bit before the summer because I think a decision needs to be made about what role he plays in the championship.
Yeah, and what about Wolfe? Because now with Hugo Bueno really taking over, I don't know if there's a real spot for him. Definitely, he's somebody that thinks he's Premier League quality. I still question that.
He's been solid. I think what was interesting was I don't know if it was on purpose because it didn't last for very long. Maybe it was just the result of a corner and they ended up on the opposite sides. But there was like a period of like 5 minutes where Hugo Bueno was on the right and Chacho ended up on the left, and it seemed like it must have been instructed because they were actually operating there even in an attacking sense. And it just made me think, like, I wonder if you could switch Hugo Bueno over to the right because he cut in and could actually shoot with his left foot, with his strong foot. And ironically, it was actually, I think, a less good shot than the one on his right foot against Pickford. But still, like, the ability for him to do that, it's good to have options, I guess. It's sad that it means that it's like at the expense of someone we just bought this past summer. But I think there's a world where you could play Hugo Bueno on the right and Wolf on the left. But then you get back to like, well, we also have Rodrigo Gomez and Pedro Lima. So why are we why are we adding depth to the right wing back spot?
I still don't understand the Wolfie signing because of the fact that he even comes out a week later and he's like, I mean, I've never played left wing back, so I'm not really comfortable for this. It's like, what? Did anybody ask him before signing him?
Those comments aged really well because, like, at the time it was frustrating. It was more, evidence, like with Tolu saying he wasn't fit, where it's like, Jesus Christ, Jeff, like, couldn't you have like signed people who were ready? But now you look back on it, it's like, geez, they were really in the trenches and like they had maybe less hope than we did, and just like trying to like give any explanation for why we were so shit.
You mentioned Tolu. I think Tolu has been very good since he's moved into the starting role. He does a lot of dirty work. Like I said, I feel like he's kind of the Dennis Rodman of the team. Hasn't really had a lot of good goal scoring opportunities, but there's some people online that just can't stand the guy, and I don't know why. What are your thoughts on Tolu?
Yeah, I saw him getting some stick for this game, and he was more quiet than he has been. I think that this was not like we weren't at it, and even us at it doesn't equate to a win with this team. But like, I think he was serviceable, and I think we struggled to put players near him, whether that was instructions or whether it was just, players not playing with the right discipline. But, playing was too far away from him. Mane was too far away from him. Any of our like sort of creative players, whether they started or came on, just we're never really quite close enough to him. And that's what you really need is like he wins those flick-ons and then he's going to continue to be involved as you get closer to goal. And I think we were not quite executing that attacking plan, which shows in our numbers in terms of how many shots we had. But yeah, I mean, Tolu is still like doing what we need right now out of a striker. And I mean, like,
Mhm.
it's okay that Strand Larson is knocking on the door, but yeah, I think for now, I mean, like, Tolu's been part of all the good creative stuff that we've done for the past month. So
I just feel like if he could just work on his heading to get more accurate shots, the goals would start coming because he's a beast in the air and he really has a lot of power in his header shots. It's just not on target yet. And I don't know if that's part of his transition to the Premier League. He just doesn't have enough space to whip it as much. I'm not really sure. Danny, who was your man of the match?
I think you said it. I think Hugo Bueno, which is maybe, I don't know. Like, it's just one of those games where, like, not a ton happened. I think Hugo Bueno for me, just because the shift that he put in was really admirable. I thought, like, Zhao played well. Obviously, he came off. There were plenty of players like Mosquera who I think had good games, but just in terms of the effort that Hugo Bueno put in, I guess in a 0-0 draw, that's sort of what you're looking at is the effort, unless there's a standout goalkeeping performance or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I kind of got a little pushback on the fact I said, look, during the game, Wolves may not win this, but I feel like they're entertaining to watch again. And I understand there wasn't a lot of shots on goal and it still turned out to 0-0. But I actually kind of enjoyed watching this game because I did feel like there was still some action. Am I just crazy and that desperate for any bit of emotion?
Yeah, I think that's why you got pushback, is because the bar is just so low now. Like, we're happy to see like a relatively competent team have like a boring 0-0 draw. Even better if we had been like even more in control and they hadn't had those chances near the end. But it's just like it's so funny how quickly we become like spoiled, where it's
Hmm.
like we're unbeaten in 4 or 5 or whatever, and it's like, suddenly it's like this isn't good enough. But like 2 months ago, we would have killed for a 0-0 against Newcastle.
Yeah.
Like, that was out of the question. So yeah, I think it does have to do with more with where the team is at right now. But yeah, it was I don't want to say exciting, but it was satisfying to see a team like play with a certain amount of like competence and confidence that we haven't seen for too long.
Yeah, yesterday the Texans lost and my Chicago Bears lost in overtime. And my wife said, well, I said, man, football season's over. She goes, well, you still have the Wolves. And I said, don't threaten me.
Yeah.
Okay, well, silly season is 2/3 of the way through, and there's not shit going on. Well, there is one thing. Everybody's favorite punching bag, Marshall Manetzi, Mario Manetzi, whatever you want to call him. He got loaned to Paris FC. This was, even though there's no obligation to buy Danny, the fact that they got Paris FC to cover his wages for the rest of the year is a total win. And a loan fee.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Paris FC are, I think, doing fairly well this season. Well enough that like he will hopefully be in the shop window. If we can get a sale in the summer, that'd be great. I mean, I'm sure he'd be fairly useful in the championship, but I just think like in terms of like a reset that needs to happen, I just don't see how he fits in. And it's certainly not going to be the sort of exciting barnstorming promotion team that we'd want to see. But yeah, having his wages covered seems significant, since
Yeah,
that
whoever
was
negotiated
reported
that deal for Wolves,
reported at
bravo.
around 70K per week, which is like, I don't like to complain about like what players are getting paid unless it's like, the sort of astronomical level, because like they're working professionals and I don't blame them for getting as much as they can out of these, super rich companies that own these teams. But like, what a crazy bit of business, to like bring him in and pay him so much when like I don't think anybody was expecting him to be like a massive part of of this team. He like overperformed a bit and really helped us in that 6-game winning streak. But it's like it's not like he was scoring goals in those games. Like he was just like kind of creating some space.
Looking at his wages now, he was like a very expensive decoy, is what he was.
Yeah.
I'd still take him over Dendoncker though. But I just hate Dendoncker that much.
Yeah.
One person who is officially with us is Krejci. His loan became permanent because of number of games, and there's no relegation clause in there. So he's ours, Danny. Looks like it's going to be, what, a $17.3 million option. Do you see him still on this roster when we're starting the championship? Or should I say, by the end of that window when we're in the championship?
I mean, it's a good question. I don't know that I know the answer. I'd like to believe so because I think he's a character that you can sort of help to build a team around, has some leadership qualities. And I think in the championship, him playing in midfield also wouldn't be out of the question, not like as a primary option, but, as needed. It's just like, you hope that we have some continuity. I think that that's maybe the more important thing to me is like, we need a full reset. We need to kind of get rid of players on this team with extreme prejudice in some cases, but also like you want to still have some kind of core around. And like, I think like best case scenario would be like João Gomez stays around, but we know that that's like virtually impossible. So like, what's the next best thing? Like look around the squad for like who can still be a leader next season. I think he's definitely part of that list. So unless we see some really exciting transfer activity in the next couple of weeks, I think Krejci's definitely one who I'd like to still be with us next year.
You mean you're not putting all your faith in the championship team or the captaincy team that Vitor created? Tony Gomez, like, where is he gone?
He's still injured.
Yeah. Like you've never even heard of him anymore. His name hasn't come up. Poor guy. Agbadu could be on the bye-bye. Besticus is coming in. They're offering maybe 10 million or more for a possible permanent deal. We'll see. We'll see if it happens. Another rumor out there is João Gomez. We've heard Napoli, Manchester United. Atletico Madrid suddenly has a lot of money now that they shipped off Conor Gallagher. So maybe they're pushing to get him. But João, as we would expect, wants to kind of finish out the season. His value is at 40 million pounds is what Wolves are setting around there. How do you feel about that price?
That feels more or less what I'd expect for a January sale. It's disappointing, obviously. Like that's one of those things where like you're never, if relegation is on the horizon or even in the cards, you're never going to be happy with, the price that you're selling players for because you know that it's going to be below what you think they're worth. But in terms of getting a rebuild started, this window or next, I think it's not a million miles off anyway. As always, I'd prefer for him to leave the league just so I don't have to watch him play against us. I don't know how likely that is, but it's been strange because, the news with Atletico Madrid came up last week, I think, and it just really quieted down again. It was like Conor Gallagher left and he was mentioned as one of the replacements possibly. And like quite, with fair credibility, but it's just like, it's really gone quiet. And it's like the whole transfer window has kind of been like that. There aren't really teams that are doing tons and tons of business, which I know is like kind of typical for January. I'm sure we'll see a lot more at the end, but it's just like, I don't know. It's been too quiet for my liking. I'm not expecting us to like bring in a ton, but like a player or two would be nice. And we just, once again, sort of have nothing.
Well, I think for a couple of these January transfer windows, we had guys lined up. Like we had Cunha already lined up to come in, and we had Agbadu come in right away. And there just isn't that. And it might be in part because, maybe Jeff Shee had a plan that then got thrown out. I can't imagine what it would be, but
God, I'd love to see that plan.
This will be our last episode until after the transfer window, Danny. So we're going to do a little stay or go predictions. If you think they're going to go, say if it's going to be a permanent or on loan. So I'll start with the big one, at least price tag wise, and that's going to be JSL. Does he stay or go?
I think go. I hope go, and maybe that's translating into my belief that he will. I'm kind of surprised that there haven't been more solid links, especially recently. There were, sort of flurry at the beginning of the season or the beginning of the window, but it's just like kind of been nothing since then. I could see him at a few different Premier League clubs, even. I mean, like I think I mentioned Everton last time out. I think there are other teams sort of in that same level of the Premier League who could benefit from him, but like there really hasn't been much. And I think he's one. I think I would like to see him go this window because one, I think we're obviously like any player, we're going to get way more for him now than we do in the summer. And also like it's quite clear that he's not going to be here next year. And so we might as well start that rebuild. We mentioned like Josh Sargent last time, but like someone like that where it's like, come in, you don't even have to start immediately because Tolo is going to be starting, get your feet wet, be part of the rebuild next year, someone like that. So I think he will go. I would like him to go. I'm surprised there hasn't been more news.
I think he's going to go, but I think it's going to be a loan with an option. I don't even think it'll be an obligation on there because right now, look, he's not even starting for a team that is desperate for goals at the bottom of the table. That doesn't really say much about him. Newcastle, I will never forgive Newcastle, ever, ever for ruining this guy. What the hell? John Arias, does he stay or does he go?
I think 2 months ago we would have said definitely go, get this guy out of here, and he didn't seem to want to be here. But he had some comments on the Wolves website that he wants to stick around. Who knows how much that's just like playing PR? But he's at a better turn of form. I do wonder. He falls in the same category where like I'd like him to be with us in the championship because I think he'd tear it up. But like, is he going to want to be there? And if he's not going to want to be there, then cash in whenever you can cash in for the most, because like the rebuild needs to start. But yeah, I think for this window, I think he stays. That's my guess. I think
he stays too, and I think he just doesn't want to leave the Premier League right now because he said that. I mean, he took less money to come to the Premier League. He wanted to test himself against there, and that kind of admits failure in a little bit. And I don't think he wants to do that. Wang Hee-chan.
I think he stays until the summer. I'm sure that a lot of people would prefer for him to go for some of the same reasons that I've said about the previous two, where it's like, well, this is the time we can cash in on him. And I think that that's probably true. But just my little sense about it is that I think that he has some level of leadership in this squad. He might be like, people might see him as like kind of a comical figure, but like he was pretty involved during the very final days of Vitor's era, where he was like, helping out the like coaching staff from the sideline, like pointing things out. It's just like, I think he's like pretty invested, and I don't know. I mean, like he's definitely a saleable asset. If a bid came in for him, I think they'd take it, but like, I'm not sure that bid is coming in. I think he'll probably stay until the summer.
I don't think they'll even consider it unless they bring in somebody that can start at that left wing, left forward side of
exactly.
the area. Right now, there's no. I mean, that's why he's out there, is they don't have anybody for that. Wolfe, what do you think about him?
Yeah, I think he stays till the summer, and maybe beyond that.
I think he goes out on loan.
Okay.
Again, loan with an option. I think he's going to be one that pushes it because, again, it's a World Cup year. He's not seeing anything. And we brought up Rodrigo Gomez, Pedro Lima. I think he's really going to push like, this isn't what I signed up for. You guys send me out on loan somewhere. Gomez or Andre?
Either one.
Yeah, either one.
I really haven't heard. There was like some brief mention of Andre going to Italy, but there hasn't really been anything solid. And then there's the whole Zhao stuff that we talked about already. The closer we get, the more I think they're both going to be here to the summer. And if we are fighting and looking okay, maybe that is as good as it gets for them in terms of the Brazil squad. It's still a huge risk to them, but it's also a risk to leave and not start. So like I think that's something that they're balancing against. If João Gomez can go to Atletico Madrid and start every game until the World Cup, then that's a better choice for him. But if he goes somewhere else this window and doesn't start, then is it any better than him being the best player in Wolves' terrible squad, for 4 months?
Right.
Probably not. So I don't know. This is the hardest one. Like, will at least one of them go this window? I don't know. I have a sense that they're both going to stay, but I don't know. We're still 2 weeks out. That's the one with the biggest asterisk next to it for me.
Yeah, I think if any of them are going to go, it's going to be Andre. But I don't know. Again, I don't think Wolves are in a position on either of those guys where they're going to sell for a cut rate. They got to get a decent rate for him. For Lopez, we've heard a lot about him going out on loan. Do you think that happens?
I wish that it wouldn't. I wish that he could get some game time, especially if they think he's going to play with us in the championship, which again, I don't know how likely that is. He seems to be like the George Mendes pet that like, he's the one that like Mendes is like working overtime to get him somewhere else, which is super frustrating. But the only one that actually filled me with some kind of hope is when there was that rumor that he might go out on loan to the championship. And I said, hell yeah, like go to the championship. He'll tear it up for 4 months, have like a great attitude coming back in, and then be part of, getting back up. But I just don't know if that seems like that. I'll say this. That doesn't feel like a George Mendes move, like for him to put his client in the championship. So I don't know. I think he stays this window just because there's probably not a better option. I don't know. I'll say he goes out on loan just because I have no clue. But
yeah, I think he is going to go out on loan. I'm with you. If he went down to the championship, that would be fantastic. But Mendes, you remember when people were all excited about Mendes coming back into the picture? I was one of the ones that said, careful what you wish for.
We didn't even get to talk about the John Percy article that said that once again that Mendes was going to, take less of a role. We've heard this a number of times, and I'm sure that someone did tell John Percy that. I'm not saying that he's, lying, but like for the last like 4 games before then, I can't remember the guy's name, but the guy who works for Mendes, who's like basically works at Compton, like he was at every one of those games, and you can't.
So remember, when I did the tour of Molyneux in April this past year, that organization has a luxury box, and they've had a luxury box every year. So
he's at the away games too. You just can't tell me that they're not involved. That's ridiculous.
Agadoo gone, right?
Oh yeah, he's gone.
He's gone. And then will one of the goalkeepers, Saw or Johnston, go?
I think they're probably both here at the end of January, which is a little frustrating. I'd like to see one of them go. I mean, obviously for me, ideal would be Johnstone, but just to like, again, sell someone who is, has some value before we drop down. If we think that we're going to completely refresh the goalkeeping department next year, then getting as much as we can for at least one of them this window, as opposed to waiting until the summer, seems good, but I just don't see it happening.
Yeah. So how many incomings do you see coming?
Wait, I want to add one from the chat.
Oh.
Will Bellegarde stay?
He'll stay. Well, number one, because he's still injured.
Yeah.
I don't think they'd get him. But yeah, I think Bellegarde is going to be another one of those guys who is here next year and is going to have to play a big role. And I think he should dominate the championship. We'll see.
Yeah, I think he stays for. I mean, I think he's getting closer to returning. So I think that his fitness, he could potentially, like, it would be not impossible for him to leave, but I agree that he will stay. And I agree that, like, I think he could play in the championship as well. He's, it's funny, paying more attention to international stuff recently. Haiti is just like, it's not that strong a team overall. They had a great campaign to qualify for the World Cup. It was amazing, but they're not that strong a team. And you look at where their players come from, like what leagues they're playing in. And I don't think that the role that he plays on Haiti, which is fairly large, I don't think that him playing in the championship particularly affects his ability to get called up by Haiti.
Right.
He will go to the World Cup regardless of who he's playing for the next 4 months. And I don't think that it'll have any real impact. It would really just be about Bellegarde himself and whether he wants to push for a move, which maybe I don't know anything about the guy.
Yeah. I've just always imagined, and I know it's silly, I think it's just because he came from, I always imagine him with like this French accent.
Well, he is French.
Like this really French accent. I don't know. The number of incomings. What do you think, Danny?
I want it to be 2, but I have a feeling it's going to be 1 or 0. What I desire is 2. What I think will happen is 1, and what might also happen is 0. So my answer is
nobody
1.
Wants. I would need to go back and see some of these other teams that have been in similar situations as us, like Luton Town a few years ago. I would love to see like if they were able to do any January business. Nobody wants to get like Wolves stank on them, right?
The thing is, a lot of those teams weren't already, like, we aren't already down, I know. And like, I'm actually like probably more optimistic than most people about our ability to at least claw back some of that deficit. But like, most teams that are like probably destined for relegation aren't as like mathematically cut adrift as they say, as we are currently. I think honestly, the only thing that's saving our ability to sign anyone this window is the fact that we're on this unbeaten run. That like we look like a more competent team than maybe we are.
You know what they need to sell people on? Do you want to win a trophy next year?
Right.
With your one starter coming in or one signing coming in, will they start?
It really depends on who goes out, because I think I'll say that the one signing is like with the caveat that like obviously like if João Gomez goes, then he gets replaced. So that's like in addition. And so yeah, I think like the starter, there will be a starter if they're replacing João Gomez.
I think they bring in a winger because that's what Rob Edwards has specifically said. I think
hey man, I hope that too.
Yeah, who starts over Hwang. And I think he'll want him starting fairly soon just because, man, Hwang makes some boneheaded plays in possession. It just drives me nuts. So I think you're right on hopefully 2, but probably 1 or 0. I think that's pretty spot on. So we will know next time we come on for a show who we have and don't have. But until then, there are 2 matches. The first one is on Saturday against Man City. It's at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central. Who knows what time in Fort Lauderdale? Nobody knows. Man City is coming off a bad loss to Manchester United, 2-0. Arsenal's kind of starting to pull away. They traveled to play Bodo Glimt. I don't know. Somebody help me out. Danny, you're supposed to help me out here.
Bodo Glimt. It's in Norway.
That straight up sounds like a Lord of the Rings character. I'm sorry.
It is. It could be.
Would that be a dwarf or would that be a hobbit?
Ooh, good question. The first name Bodo, that's definitely a hobbit name.
Mm-hmm.
Glimt isn't.
That's very
Glimt
dwarvish.
Isn't particularly Tolkienian, but I would have to say dwarf. Yes.
Okay. Maybe it's a half breed. I don't
know. Lord.
Anyways, Man City does play them in the Champions League this week, so maybe that helps a little bit, but probably not, right? Because it is Man City.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Man United aren't the hottest team in the world, and they made Man City look fairly average. Now, I'm not saying that we can really replicate the same thing, because even though I love to clown on Man United, I think they probably have more of an ability to counterattack against City than we do, which is a sad state of affairs that we went from having Pedro Neto and Mateus Cunha to not being able to counterattack as well as Man United. But yeah, I think I don't want to say there's an opportunity there, because I think the opportunity, I'll say this, there's an opportunity to have another performance that we're proud of. We showed that against Arsenal, even though we scored 2 own goals and lost the game. We showed that against Man United. We showed that against Everton. Those are all games where we did not win, and in one case lost, but still came away feeling like this is a team that had more to give. I think we can do that. I think Man City have been a little disjointed recently. I do worry, though, that they just lost in the Manchester derby, and Pep is going to be furious, and he's going to absolutely smash us. But yeah,
well, there's no Kevin De Bruyne this time.
Yeah, just Erling Haaland, who has 2 or 3 hat tricks against us.
Yeah, is it really that many?
I think he has 2. But he's been the one struggling. He's been having to play so much that he's tired.
And Mosquera, he could getting some squeaky bum material. Yeah.
So what you're saying is Mosquera's getting sent off in this game.
Probably do, isn't it? It just feels like it. I could see in the most Mosquera way he somehow scores a goal on open play and then gets a red card 5 minutes later.
Hey, if he scores a goal,
I may do that in my prediction.
That's fine.
Let's look at the prediction board last week. Danny, you got a win, or no, you got a point because you said your draw. So nice going. So did Alex. I had no faith and had a 2-1 Newcastle win. So I got 0 points. You are still 5 points behind me, though, and Alex sitting in 9th. So what do you think for the Manchester City game?
Oh, I'd love for us to continue our unbeaten run. If we could get an unbeaten January, that would be amazing. But that's going to require at least 2 more draws, so I'm not sure that's in the cards. Let's go very optimistic and say that it's City 1, Wolves 0, and they score that goal fairly late, and it's a penalty or something stupid like that. And so they feel demoralized from, almost losing to the worst team in the league, and we feel great because we held them off for so long.
I think now that I said it, I'm definitely going to go with Mosquera scores, and we take a 1-0 lead, and then he gets sent off, and we end up giving up 3 goals. So I'm going to say 3-1 City wins. There is another matchup the next week, which is going to be against Bournemouth. That is on Saturday, January 31st, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central. A little too far to look out, but do you feel like that's really those type of matches are one must win if they want to get back in this?
Yeah, I mean, what is it really to get back in this, I guess? It's sad to say, but that's another one that I'd be happy with a draw. Bournemouth have had a bit of an up and down season. I think they're doing fairly well right now, but again, it's at home, and if we can put up another solid display like we did against Newcastle and hope to maybe score something jammy off of a corner or something, then that's, I think, what we're left hoping for. Or maybe we just, crushed City 2-0 and we're ready to take on anyone. But yeah, I think that's, again, it's just when Rob Edwards came in, I think we said a lot to the tune of this is about instilling confidence potentially for a run in the championship, and it's every game that comes has to just be, how solid can we be? Can we be a little bit dangerous on the break? Can we like keep ourselves in the game for 60, 70, 80 minutes and then see what happens? So more of the same. I think obviously with Bournemouth, there's a little bit more opportunity to do something. But man, Bournemouth have had our number for a little while now. So I'm not feeling super optimistic about that one.
Is it cheating for me to say I'd give up my right hip for Wolves to beat Man City 2-0?
A little bit cheating, but
I like Drew from Pittsburgh. He said if Mosquera scores and gets a red, can it be like Gordie Howe, hat trick, a goal, and assist in a fight? I don't see why not.
Absolutely, that counts for him.
I don't know if he'd get in a straight up fight though. He seems to definitely be like the instigator who then is like, "Whoa, where did that come from?" Yeah.
Never a dull moment with him.
So what's your prediction for this Bournemouth match?
I'm going to be boring and go for another draw. It's going to be 1-1.
One draw. I haven't picked Wolves in league play since. Hold on, I'm looking right here.
So like Leeds or something.
Draw. No, that was a League Cup. Yes, Leeds was the last time I
can't believe I got it.
That's impressive. All the other ones, I did predict all these League Cup and FA Cup for wins. A few draws thrown in, but that was the last time. I'm going to pick Wolves to win that match.
Wow.
And I think it's going to be like some crazy ass 4-2 Wolves. Because why the hell not?
Why not? And let it be known that I now lead the predictions league for predicting what your last prediction was for a win. All right. This is, of course, the time of the show where you, the listener, can ask us anything about the wonderful club that is Wolverhampton Wanderers. You can always email us at wholelotofwolves@gmail.com. Take note of the new email address, or reach us, of course, at X/Twitter at WLWpod. If you're watching right now on the live stream, of course, we'll try to take some questions as they come in, and those are always fun and topical. So to get started with, we have Ryan Gray. Ryan Gray from New England Wolves asks on X, if the season started again tomorrow, would you back us to stay up, Josh?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Not only that, I would say we're comfortably staying up.
I don't know about
14th place. 14th place.
Well,
last year you could say, even though we finished way down there, it was a comfortable staying up, right?
Yeah, I guess. I think that, like I said about this last game, I think that if we had been playing as solid as this for the whole season, I think we would probably not be in the relegation zone. We'd be on the cusp. We'd be somewhere around where Forest is. We probably would have won at least one of the two games against Leeds and Burnley that we completely just decided not to play soccer for like 2 months. But I don't know that equates to much higher than 17th or maybe 16th. But yes, I guess to answer the question simply, yes, I would back us to stay up if we were kind of the same no-nonsense team that we are currently.
We would not be super thrilling, but by God, we would stay up.
Be boring and awful, and maybe still get relegated just later in the season. All right, Ryan also asks, have we seen the reports of Mane pushing for a move in January? How credible/realistic do you think that is? I looked into this because I was curious, and normally, try not to like indulge too much in whatever the rumor of the day is. It's interesting because it was like a former executive for like Villa and a couple other teams that sort of gave an interview, and I think they were just talking about transfers in the Midlands generally, and said that his agent might be angling for a move this window. And I think he was being intentionally vague to cover his own self. But I think like the reason why I wanted to include it is just like, I think it's just one of those where we have to hope that Mateus Mane has a good advice, from his agent and from other people in his life. I don't think there's any real scenario in which he leaves this window, but I think that it is equally valid in the summer. If he continues to perform around where he is now, I think there's going to be plenty of teams that'll want to take him on, and we will probably want to keep him, and we'll do our best to keep him. But obviously, if a big bid comes in, we're probably going to have to take it. But the question is, what kind of role does he play if he goes to, a team in 7th or 8th place or higher even?
Mm-hmm. I don't give a shit what he wants or what his agent wants. You got a contract. You're the only thing really positive about the squad right now. Yeah, guys, if they're under contract, I get it. There's a lot of pressure by agents and stuff. You can say no, they're under contract, they have to play, and if they don't, then you don't pay them. Why is this? I don't. Well, he may want to go. Well, there's a lot of things I'd like to do in life, but guess what? That's not the way it happens. So at some point, you have to tell these guys, yeah, no, you have a contract. Sorry, 2029. We'll talk about it after that first year in the championship.
Yeah, and I think that's up to Rob. Is we got to sell him on what his role is next season, which I don't think anybody would be surprised to say, look, man, we're going to bring in other players who might start over you sometimes, but you are going to play games, you are going to start games, and you're going to be a part of us being promoted, and that's how you keep him here. So
yeah, we're not going to sell you for $10 million, even though it's that would be all pure profit. Sorry, no.
Yeah. All right. Let's go with the one from the chat right now. Cy Waldron has asked, if we were to be relegated, because it's not mathematically yet, as he reminded us earlier, which club would you want to visit on an away day? So pull up your EFL championship standings right now.
Right here. I mean, some of these, you kind of want to say West Brom just because it's the big one. But it's got to be Wrexham, right?
I mean, I have my own personal beefs with the whole Wrexham story.
I think if you asked most Americans, especially newer fans, I think the answer would probably be West Brom just because it's a rivalry match. Maybe Birmingham. But I would venture to say, and people in the chat, you can say if I'm wrong, I think Wrexham would be the choice by a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, Cy tells us you really don't need to visit West Brom.
I would want to go just for the experience,
just for the atmosphere,
of the derby, not to go sightseeing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to a Black Country derby happening at least twice next year. That will be a silver lining, just in terms of during our fandom. Obviously, it's been exceedingly rare. Only 3 times, and 2 of them were during lockdowns. There weren't even fans. And I just, so that would be a highlight of the season. But I think from my perspective, the Wrexham thing is more I feel a lot of grumpiness / sour grapes about the whole Wrexham narrative. So I'm actually excited if we can put together a good team next season, and assuming that they don't get promoted this season, obviously, to go there and stomp on them, basically, because I'm tired of the fairy tale narrative.
Oh, it's like when Man City. Oh, you gotta love those underdogs, right?
Yeah, exactly. James in the chat also points out Middlesbrough might be spicy with Rob Edwards if he's still in place, obviously. So, especially because they were doing fairly well when he left. And I think that they've wobbled a little bit. They've recently righted themselves and are still sitting in 2nd place. But obviously, nothing is given at that point. Once you drop into the playoffs, if that were to happen, then anything can happen in the playoffs. So who knows where they'll be next season.
Cy says an underdog story without an underdog. Connor Cody is still on Wrexham.
Is that really an underdog though? Yeah, I don't know. I really love the first season, like because I loved how they highlighted sort of semi-professional football, and it's
Hmm.
just like so interesting to see what those players' lives are like. And I love that story of the pyramid. But then once they started to move up, and I was more aware of like the amount of money that they're dumping into these teams, and knowing, like what they're spending relative to the other teams in their leagues, it's like I don't know, man. Like, yeah, I guess anybody, like, I don't want to say anybody could do it, but it's like at the same time, like, the amount of money that they're spending, really, they ought to be getting promoted. So,
Hey, man, it's business. You get what
yep,
you pay for.
yep. All right, moving along. Drew Freakin, that's Drew Breyer in Pittsburgh on X. Can you do a segment where you compare Wolf seasons to Star Wars movies? I feel like this season is either The Last Skywalker or the one with Jar Jar. Obviously, in reference to our little foray into Lord of the Rings
Yeah, I
last
do
time
feel
out.
like this does need to be a segment. So I don't really want to answer this all of the way, but I do think saying The Last Skywalker is a good shout because, especially if this is the time in the Premier League before we drop down, this has been a turd of a season, and that was kind
Yeah.
of a turd of a movie.
Well, I think Chris Wood, who responded on X, really has it out in Columbus, said the Star
Yeah,
Wars Christmas special.
yeah, which does not exist.
Oh
This
my God. I sent him back a picture of Chewbacca's son, Lumpy. That's how I feel about our season. Oh my
so
goodness.
funny thing about Star Wars. I was in Vegas a couple weeks ago, right? I went to the burlesque parody Star Wars show, Empire Strips Back, and it was tremendous.
Good Lord.
It was tremendous. Great show. It was at the Rio. I think it's a permanent home there. Recommend everybody see it. Good stuff. And
All
Danny
right.
is speechless again.
Who knows what one says to that? All right, Josh, do you want to do your little follow up to our Lord of the
Yeah,
Rings
yeah.
segment?
So we talked about Lord of the Rings last week. I went and saw Two Towers on Saturday at Cinemark, and they had these new things called D-box seats, kind of similar to like 4D without the sense in the water, but the seats rumbled a lot. They moved, and at the beginning of that movie, spoiler alert, Gandalf's fighting the Balrog going down, and I mean, it felt like a little ride. It was awesome. So any big blockbuster movies, I'm definitely doing that. But it made me think, Danny, what is one bit of technology that you would like to see invented to make the EPL a better viewing experience?
Cynically, for this season, a blindfold. um, Less cynically, but still a little facetiously, earplugs sometimes because the commentators, especially this season, I was talking to my buddy Edgar when we were watching that like the number of stats that I've heard this season about how poor Wolves are is just like so infuriating. I know there's not much to say about a team that's so bad, but it's like I remember during the time when we couldn't get a win, them saying like at the very end of some game, is that oh well, I think we were already behind too. It's like down 1 or 2 goals, and they said Wolves are the lowest scoring team in the league during the last 15 minutes of games, and it's like yeah,
So
we're probably the
arbitrary.
lowest scoring team in the league during any 15-minute segment. Like, what are we doing here? There was a bit of that this weekend, and it was driving me crazy. So yeah, they could implement some alternative soundtracks maybe for the games.
I would like to see the Skycam, which is in the NFL. I would like to see that in an EPL game. I think that would be kind of like a unique new little viewing
I
experience.
take Skycam over the ref cam. The ref cam is garbage. I don't need to see that.
Well, you just realize how ridiculous it is. There's only one referee running up and down the whole damn
The
thing.
only time I want the ref cam is like when there's
He's
handbags going
throwing
on.
a
Like if
red.
well, like or if like Yersin Mosquera is doing something insane, like that's what I want to
Mhm.
see. I don't need to see the actual play from the ref's point of view.
Yeah, I think the Skycam could be cool though because you'd really get to see more of the formations and some of the strategy.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll get on board for that one.
See, I have good ideas.
Speaking of good ideas that you have, tell us what to watch next season.
It is the Paramount Plus watch of the week. As you know, Paramount Plus, home of championship football. More than likely, we're going to be there. So I was looking and I saw one, and I just rewatched this a couple months ago. It is the 2008 comedy Tropic Thunder, starring an all-star cast of Ben Stiller, Robert Downey Jr., Jack Black, Tom Cruise, Matthew McConaughey, and an early Danny McBride. This is a great movie. It's really a parody on movies. These guys are making a war movie. They get sent out to make it more realistic, and it turns out they run into an actual war. Danny, have you seen? I assume you have seen Tropic Thunder.
Well, you're going to be disappointed, and I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of shit in some group chats that we're a part of. No, I've never seen Tropic Thunder.
Stu, I mean, Danny, that is a great movie. Now, look, there are a lot of things. So I rewatched this again, and it's a fantastic movie. It does hold up in some senses, not in the sense that they could probably remake it in this day and age. Same with a lot of the episodes of The Office you watch, and it's like, I don't know if they can get away with it these days. But I mean, Robert Downey Jr. literally, his character pigments his skin so he could be a black man. Jack Black's doing drugs all the time. Tom Cruise is unrecognizable, just a great one. Yeah, see, Todd, I'm gonna need you to really get on Danny about this in our group chat. I'm just a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude. Yeah, so a lot of these questions now I can't ask. I was like, who are the who shine the most in this film? I mean, I feel like Robert Downey Jr. was tremendous in it, although Tom Cruise probably stole the show. Danny, he is like kind of a beer belly going bald movie producer. And if you're not told ahead of time, hey, that's Tom Cruise, you wouldn't be able to really recognize him. There may be a sequel coming at some point, or a Les Goodman, that's Tom Cruise's character, spinoff. Danny, you have homework. In the next,
probably
before our next episode, you need to watch Tropic Thunder.
All right.
I got to give you my damn Paramount Plus login.
I already have Paramount Plus login.
Okay, well, there you go. There you go. You must watch Tropic Thunder, and then I need your review in the next episode.
All right. I accept. Yeah, everyone get your Paramount Plus subscriptions ready just in case. And obviously, although I didn't say it earlier, keep sending in your questions. They're the best part of our show. You can always send them into wholelotofwolves@gmail.com or reach us on X/Twitter at WLWpod.
See, Sai, your quote that you just put on there, that is one of those where why I don't think this can be made in today's day and age. But it's a great meme.
Yep. All right, Josh, how are you doing on whatever it is you're drinking?
Yeah, I'm drinking. You know, I'm not able to drink beer because I'm having surgery on Wednesday, but I've actually gone through 2 bottles now, or 2 cans, and I'm all out. So I guess that's the end of the show.
That's the end of the show. So yes, as Josh alludes to there, we are going on a slight hiatus for a couple of weeks just because Josh is going under the knife and becoming more machine than man with a hip replacement. And so we'll be back in number 2, second hip replacement in the same season, shockingly. So we'll be back in 2 weeks to review the City and Bournemouth games and look ahead to the following game, which is at home to Chelsea. And of course, I have to say that you'd be doing us a huge favor and helping grow the Whole Lot of Wolves brand by giving us a 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice, hitting the like button and or subscribing to our channels on YouTube, Facebook, X, all the other things. And of course, as you find yourself out and about this week and maybe next week, you can actually wear your Wolves gear with pride and say, for, again, maybe up to 2 more weeks, up the mighty, undefeated in 2026 Wolves.